everyone. Welcome to the first session of our Gita guest series. As you know, for the past 10 months, we have been exploring the wisdom of the Gita verse by verse. So once a month, we're going to be joined by a special guest who can share their insights on the Gita and how this wisdom relates to the practical things and challenges that we're experiencing in our lives. So in our last class, we concluded chapter 3 of the Gita, and today we're going to introduce chapter 4 and start to frame what's happening in the Gita as we approach chapter 4. So we're going to be joined by a special guest, Dina Bandhu Das. Before we bring Dina Bandhu on today, I wanted to mention that he has actually been exploring the Bhakti tradition since his teenage years after discovering a recording of a kirtan. But today he works as a hospital chaplain. He offers spiritual support to people of all different faith backgrounds. He also regularly facilitates workshops and groups about the teachings and practices of bhakti, and he approaches as it relates to spiritual care and the intersection of creativity and spirituality.
I'm grateful to join with this Sangha this evening and like to just offer my heartfelt thanks to you, Sienna, and to Sri Padvedanti Maharaj and everyone in this Sangha for the opportunity to join this evening. So, shall we begin? Okay, so thank you all so much. And yes, as Sienna mentioned, my understanding is that the Sangha has just completed chapter 3 of the Gita on Karma Yoga, and you'll now be entering into chapter 4. And something we can do this evening is to highlight certain verses of chapter 3 and also to show how in chapter 4 Krishna is taking so many steps closer to Arjuna, to the reader of Bhagavad Gita, to all of us, by showing us so many additional means by which we can come closer to him, by which we can come to connect with him more and more personally. So that's what we'll be exploring this evening. So I'll just briefly offer some invocation prayers, and then we will continue with the session. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you again. And before we begin, we'd just like to seek everyone's blessings and well wishes that we may have a meaningful, uplifting, inspiring conversation this evening, and that's pleasing to everyone's hearts and ultimately to the heart of Supreme Lord and all of the devotees. So we'll begin just by sharing a few points, and we'll read one verse here from, this is coming from chapter 4, which you're all about to delve into. It's quite exciting. So we'll be sharing, this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 11, which I'll briefly chant. Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. The translation: as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So in this verse, we see how Krishna is giving such an encouraging point to Arjuna, that actually everyone is on his path. We may, with our limited vision, feel that some are following a spiritual path, others are not. We may even criticize the way in which others are living. But Krishna is sharing here a very deep truth, that actually Krishna is present within everyone as the super soul, the Paramatma within the heart. And he's guiding, he says in Bhagavad Gita, guiding the wanderings of every soul through this world. So actually everyone is on his path, we can say. But by good fortune, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and by the sincerity of the individual also, certain doors may open on one's spiritual path. And in chapter 4, Krishna is encouraging us to go deeper, to come closer to him. So we'll just share a few verses in summary to kind of bring us to this point, with reference to what's shared in chapter 3. So chapter 3, text number 9, Krishna is saying, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free of bondage. So this is the principle of karma yoga, that whatever we do, whatever circumstance we're currently inhabiting in this world, we aspire to offer that to Krishna, and to do it for Krishna's ultimate joy and pleasure. So the question may come, how can we do that if we don't feel a particular connection to Krishna yet? How can we try to offer our work, our abilities, our gifts to him if we've not yet become, you can say, drawn into relationship with Krishna? We may appreciate this point theoretically, but it's hard to actually reframe our conceptions. We're used to going to work to earn money or to keep a roof over our head. But what Krishna is showing us, we'll see in chapter 4, is that he's waiting for us. He's very eager to help us on our path, no matter what our circumstance may be. And by this guidance, we also are developing love for Krishna. Krishna is known as the all-attractive. This is the meaning of his name. So he's the all-attractive one. So if we don't learn more about him, if we don't enter into that curious connection with Krishna, how can our hearts become attracted? Even if he is the all-attractive one, how can our hearts become attracted? So Krishna advises that we should act without attachment to the fruits of our activities. How do we become detached on the spiritual path? Well, of course, there are many spiritual paths that emphasize very strongly detachment. But on the path of Krishna Bhakti, we learn that our detachment actually comes through attachment. It comes as a byproduct of attachment. So Krishna is not expecting us to renounce our worldly attachments without developing what he calls in Bhagavad Gita a higher taste. That just as, a small child may be very attached to one toy, and then you hand them some new, dazzling toy, they'll very naturally drop what they were previously holding to grab the new, more attractive toy. So of course, this analogy only goes so far, but it's a point showing us that the soul is eternally in relationship with Krishna. So even if the mind may object a little bit in the beginning due to our conditioning, even if our bodily attachments are very strong, when the soul comes in contact with Krishna in whatever way, the soul is immediately delighted by that connection. And so much of what Krishna Bhakti is our learning to align body, mind, and then finally soul in service to Krishna, in love toward Krishna. So we become detached, not through dry renunciation, but through attachment. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this is chapter 3, we're still drawing from chapter 3 just to show. He says, chapter 3, text 26, so as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So this is what a learned person does. They don't stop someone drastically from what they're doing, yet they advise them to work in a spirit of devotion. And ultimately in our tradition we see, what did Prabhupada do? What does Guru do? Such exalted personalities are expert in engaging each individual person according to their natural propensity, and teaching them how to couch all of their gifts and abilities, which of course are coming from none other than Krishna himself, but how to couch these gifts and abilities in a devotional attitude. And there's a patience there, because we have to allow our natural attraction to blossom. Bhakti is often compared to a seed, the Bhakti Lata Bij. This is a seed within the heart that is growing and sprouting and being watered by our devotional activities, and especially being watered also by mercy, mercy of the Lord, mercy of the spiritual master. We sing the song, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutopi, that by the mercy of the Lord, a sincere person will receive connection to a spiritual teacher. And similarly, by the mercy of that spiritual teacher, one will deepen one's connection to the Lord and realize one's connection to the Lord. So we don't disrupt the minds of those who are attached to their work in this moment, but we encourage them. We show them how they can very easily offer their natural self in this moment to Krishna. Krishna loves variety. He loves to see everyone's unique individual approach to him. He's very drawn to this. So Krishna wants us to develop this higher taste. So let's move to chapter 4. We see how Krishna's guidance is there for us. In chapter 3, he tells us how to work toward detachment by giving up a sense of false proprietorship over our work, giving up the fruits of our actions. But in chapter 4, he starts to signal this point that natural detachment comes as a byproduct of attachment through relationship with Krishna. And Krishna lovingly gives guidance that brings us ever closer to him. Because this is not only the joy, the ultimate goal, prayojana of the soul, but this is also Krishna's greatest joy. Krishna wants us to connect with him more than we can imagine. He wants us to realize that we're always connected. He's been traveling with us through many lifetimes. He knows them all. We don't remember them. But Krishna is giving us this loving guidance to come ever closer to him. So Krishna explains in chapter 4 how he periodically gives this spiritual knowledge, as he's giving to Arjuna, in a time when it appears to be lost, when the chain of knowledge is broken. He appears again. He says, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna says he appears to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants. And he also appears to reestablish the principles of religion. So it's very merciful. Krishna's not doing this, you can say, for his own need. Krishna is Atmaram. He's ever satisfied. But because of his loving connection to his parts and parcels, the spirit souls in this world, he appears, or he sends his empowered representative to share this spiritual knowledge. And he gives a very encouraging point to Arjuna. This is chapter 4, text number 10. He says, being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. That's very, very encouraging. What is Krishna showing us? He's showing us that he knows that we're living with attachment, fear, and anger. This is a reality of life in this world. And also, he's showing us how many, he's very encouraging. He says, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. And thus they all, he uses this word, all, attained transcendental love for me. So Krishna, in certain places in Bhagavad Gita, is showing us how lofty Krishna consciousness is. He says, out of thousands, one will sincerely pursue the path. But here, it's a beautiful contrast. He's saying, actually, it is possible, and many, many people have gotten there. And how did they get there? Through mercy. through being absorbed in Krishna. So we may ask this question of just whatever we can do to allow our hearts to be attracted in love to Krishna. This is our best activity. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he says that whatever is favorable to Krishna consciousness should be adopted. Whatever is unfavorable should be rejected. So in that way, whatever naturally nourishes us in our spiritual life, and we have understanding of who we are and what feels inspiring for us, we're encouraged to take shelter of those things. So Krishna says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. As we said, everyone follows my path in all respects. So Krishna's statements here, they're very broad in a way. It's about everyone, but they're also deeply personal. There's space for everyone within their own unique individual situation. We're all passing through different circumstances of life at any given moment, and our lives don't necessarily look the same. But Krishna is saying there's space for everyone and their own unique situation and connection. So Krishna is eager for that variety. And his wonderful activities take place to attract the hearts of each person. First and foremost, his activities take place for his own enjoyment, for his own sweet enjoyment, because he loves to have loving exchange with his devotees. But his activities also take place to attract our hearts and to satisfy the yearning of our soul. And Krishna goes on to share in chapter 4 another deeper means by which we can come to him. So he's giving us so many clues, he's giving us so many direct instructions and windows into how we can come closer. He says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So Krishna is giving deep encouragement that the mercy of the Lord flows through the agency of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is considered to be the transparent medium, allowing this knowledge of Guru Parampara, the chain of teacher and student to teacher to student, flowing freely. And Krishna says, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So Krishna is guiding us ever closer to him. And we may ask, why is this? What is this mercy? So as we said, Krishna derives great joy when we use our free will. We all have free will. Krishna derives great joy from seeing us use that free will to choose to take steps closer to him. Maybe some of you may remember, like the first time you were walking in a park or something, and the thought occurred to you, I can pick this flower to offer to Krishna. We've been passing through this life in so many ways. We see flowers all the time. Maybe in previous times we smelled the flower, appreciated the fragrance. That's nice. But also imagine the joy in Krishna's heart when the soul for the first time says, I think I'll pick this flower and offer it to Krishna. So Krishna's so pleased when even in a very simple way like this, patram pushpam phalam toyam, we use our free will to make a simple offering of the heart to him. And Krishna is guiding us closer to him for his own joy, his own pleasure of connecting with his devotees. We may briefly meditate on the image of Lord Jagannath, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, with their widened eyes, their immense oceanic smiles, their arms contracted in bliss. And why is that joy? What is the purpose? What is the origin of that joy, we can say? The origin of that joy is the loving devotees approaching their lordships. They're ecstatic in love because of, in particular, we hear the pastime of when Krishna, Subhadra, Baladev, they're coming from Dwarka and they see the Brajvasis, the residents of Vrindavan, in Kurukshetra. They meet there and they see, and they're so overjoyed seeing their beloved devotees and seeing the love that the devotees have for them. So Krishna consciousness bhakti is a two-way street. We may feel that we're trying our best to approach the Lord, but we need to remember also that the Lord is experiencing this entire path with us. And by Krishna's guidance, we may come ever closer. We may be able to start feeling that reality, that we're in a reciprocal relationship with the Supreme. And by mercy of the Lord, by mercy of the devotees, we're being guided lovingly closer. And of course, everyone's path has its own, you can say, pace, its own, unique path. But at the same time, we understand that we are being drawn closer. And why is Krishna guiding us closer to him? We can just share one verse. This is from chapter 15, text 7. Krishna says, "The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind." So this is a revealing verse, very revealing, that Krishna is saying we are eternally connected to him. That never changes. We're his parts and parcels. But also he recognizes our struggles as embodied living entities in this world. Six senses, including the mind. And we can see in this world how it's so daunting sometimes just to move through this world with so stimuli and so much conflict and struggle in this world. It can be very heartbreaking. So Krishna's with us, recognizing that we're struggling in many ways due to conditioned life. But Krishna wants us to turn to him. He's so eager to connect with us because that will be the source of our ultimate joy. And Krishna, meanwhile, travels with us through all of our experiences. Not that we're meant to immediately transcendentalize or spiritually bypass or move out of our human, messy struggle. Krishna still appreciates us through all of that, and he guides us. He's helping us along even in that. But it brings us and it brings him the highest joy when we choose to use our free will to try to deepen our love for him, to know more about him, to learn about him, and to aspire to serve him. So these are just some thoughts to get our conversation going, and I'd just like to say thank you all, and I'll stop at this time to take any questions, reflections, comments, anything anyone would like to share. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dina Bandhu, for joining us and for everything that you shared. Definitely very encouraging. We do have some comments and a question. So we have a comment from Colleen, who joins us in our classes from the UK. And Colleen says, "Very clear and informative class. Thank you, Dina Bandhu. Look forward to seeing us comments and questions." Okay. Thanks, Colleen. But we also have a question from Subhadra. So the question is, she says, "There are moments when it gets hard to keep up with spiritual practice, like we get excessively involved in daily activities. Does it mean we're getting far from God?"
Thank you very much. Thank you for the very sincere question, Subhadra Devi. Thank you. So, yeah, we can certainly relate to this, and I appreciate your transparency and honesty and sharing like this. Yeah, it gets very hard to keep up with spiritual practice because sometimes it just feels like there's so much going on, and our attention can be drawn in a million different directions. Our time, I can say for myself personally, sometimes it just feels like there is no time in the day. The days just fly by, and before I know it, it's night, and there are a million things I still feel I need to do. Sometimes that includes sadhana, let's be honest. The day is ended, we're already tired, and then we want to, honor our spiritual practice. But as you said, it's hard to keep up sometimes. So to address the deep second sentence here, the third sentence, sorry, when you say, does it mean we're getting far from God? In terms of smaranam, in terms of our remembrance, it can be that we're becoming a little bit forgetful of God in our own limitation. We may be forgetful of God. We can take heart in the fact that God is never forgetting us. The Lord is never forgetting us at any moment. The Lord is within our heart as the super soul. So the Lord is closer to us than we can imagine. We hear, actually coming from the Quran, it says the Lord is closer to us than our jugular vein. It's a very intense quotation, but that's the meaning, that God is closer to us than we can even possibly conceive. That God is so near us, and God is always traveling with us through every circumstance. So we may forget God temporarily, but God is not forgetting us. And also, the spiritual practice is there also by design. It's very practical and it's very merciful in the sense that if we have, our spiritual practice, even if we struggle here and there, if we have our spiritual practice, we are able to return to that space of remembrance of God, despite the flurry of activity, despite the fast pace of our lives. So this is an opportunity for us to remember God's nearness to us. So not that we're getting farther away, we may feel farther away, but in those moments when we're engaged in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, remembering about the Lord, Sadhu Sangha, associating with the Vaishnavas, then all of a sudden it may occur to us in a very encouraging, sweet way, oh, he's been there this whole time. He's never left me, and I'm continuing to walk this path by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of the devotees. We remember our nearness, and Krishna is very kind to give us sweet moments that we can look back on. Even in a time of less inspiration on our path, we can look back on times when we did feel very inspired, or we felt very fortunate to be in the company of wonderful devotees, and that can remind us of a few things, of how dear we are to the Lord. That's very humbling, but it's also, we need to remember that, because that encourages us beyond our own, our own struggles. And yeah, we're getting closer to God for as long as we are desiring that. Krishna says, like he says here, I reward them accordingly. So Krishna will continue to take steps toward us for as long as we're honestly, aspiring and hoping to deepen that connection. So I hope that addresses your question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Suhadra, for that question. And thank you, Dina Bandhu, for that response. Definitely very encouraging and comforting, especially what you shared from the Quran. Actually, yeah, so interesting. Yeah, and I like how you emphasize like just being, if nothing more, like honest and realistic about where we are, right? And kind of being, kind of like aware of that, I guess, in the sincerest way possible. Would you say, like, are there symptoms that we should look for that maybe we are, kind of becoming a little bit more distant in our connection, or maybe like some positive symptoms that maybe that connection is actually strengthening? Like, what should we kind of look for?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, yeah, we'll start with maybe the symptoms that will indicate that maybe we are, experiencing a little drift. And just to emphasize, in the spirit of encouragement, that's temporary. Our relationship with Krishna is eternal, and we will always, by the mercy of the Lord, we can be drawn back in time and again. But a symptom that may be indicative is that we feel less enthusiasm. We have the text, nectar of instruction, Upadeshamrita, Utsahan Nishchayat Daryat Tatat Karma Pravartanat. So this, with enthusiasm, patience, and confidence, we're encouraged to endeavor in our spiritual life. So this is nice, because it's not just intense enthusiasm, that's part, but also patience and confidence. So those are all there. But we may see if our enthusiasm is waning. That may be a sign. Another sign of feeling a little distant is also that we just find that we're less able to kind of reach that place of smaranam, less able to reach that place of remembrance. So we can be going through the deepest struggles in our life, but if we're feeling that remembrance of the Lord, then that's very good. But if we're even in the best circumstance of life, if we're experiencing that forgetfulness of the Lord, that may be a sign that we need to kind of just try to recharge and reestablish our spiritual connection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, again, he said, ill health with Krishna Bhakti is better than good health without Krishna Bhakti. So in other words, sometimes our life circumstances materially are very amazing, and that may lead us to kind of forget, because we feel like all of our needs are taken care of, everything's wonderful, and we may even give ourselves credit. Oh, this is because of my hard work. This is because of what I did. So and so, so on and so forth. But we can see that according to the attitude of the devotee, great circumstances materially in life may also bring about our remembrance and gratitude for the Lord. And then the inverse is also true. That sometimes when we struggle, we feel distant from the Lord. We may curse the Lord. We may feel very upset with the Lord for the circumstances that have transpired. But then the other side of that is that some may take deeper shelter of the Lord during times of difficulty. So we can see how Krishna is very personal with each of us. And we are able to see that if our remembrance of Krishna is there and our enthusiasm is there, then we're in a good space spiritually. And um, yeah, we see also that enthusiasm to come together with the devotees is always a good sign also. I understand that's complicated, on the level of community. Sometimes we struggle, but in general, at least those close devotees in our lives, if we feel that desire to be with them, to talk with them, that's a very healthy sign.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for pointing those out. Yeah, because those are definitely, yeah, kind of like simple things that we can look for or try to be aware of. So, yeah, thank you for sharing those really practical points. And I guess not to take up too much of your time, but I think I have to ask something related to your role as a chaplain, right? Like, I just think, yeah, that must be a really interesting perspective. I don't know, like, what do you think if there was one thing that you kind of choose to emphasize so that you can, I don't know, maybe uplift or encourage or comfort the people you work with from all different faith backgrounds? Like, how do you kind of navigate that, I guess?
Thank you for asking. Thank you. Yeah, so of course, in chaplaincy and in our spiritual presence with anyone and everyone, whether or not you're formally serving in a particular capacity or not, when you're spending time with people, there may be spoken encouragement that you can give. So that may just be in the form of hearing from someone about what is most meaningful to them. And if you wish to directly connect that to God, you can, reminding them of how what is most beautiful to them. So we can think just many everyday examples. Some people value family very deeply. Some people value art. Some people value friendship. Some people value um, health, so many different things. So if we have the opportunity to understand from people and take genuine interest in what's most meaningful, most vital to them in their life, and reminding them of how there's a spiritual source for whatever it is that they find most important, that's a nice thing to do, and it's a very universal thing to do. It doesn't require that we come on in some kind of very heavy way preaching to someone, but it's a very nice way of situating that we're part of something greater. And also, of course, many people in the hospitals and people I've come to know are very, very pious. They love to pray. They have their deep connection with God. So sometimes just celebrating that, just joining someone in that moment, hearing them pray, or letting them share a scripture that's inspiring to them, we're reminding each other. I personally feel very nourished by these encounters, even though I'm outwardly in like the caregiver role. I feel very nourished also because when we hear about others talking, we're dadati pratigrinati guyam akyati prichati bhunkte bojayate chaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. So part of these six loving exchanges, giving, receiving gifts, giving and receiving prasad, and also inquiring confidentially into the matters of one's heart, and then someone revealing their mind in confidence. So if we can do that, the prayer in chaplaincy is that in that moment that the person may feel God's presence in a more tangible way as they're sharing their heart, or maybe even not in the moment, but after you leave the room, maybe they'll feel that they're sitting with God. So this is one aspect of chaplaincy. And then I'll just add one little point,
Yeah.
because it comes to me again and again, is that on the unspoken side, sometimes just sitting with someone and appreciating and admiring what's most wonderful and beautiful about them. Whether you say it or not, you may say, "Oh, you're so thoughtful," or "Oh, you have such a unique perspective," or "You're so sincere." You can say, but even if you don't say it, if you're just with someone and you're appreciating that deeply within your heart, I like to believe, and I feel I've seen in my experience, that that person starts to feel more connected to their spiritual side, because this is ultimately how Krishna regards all of us. Krishna's looking at the good, at what's beautiful within each and every living being. So if we can, in our own small way, appreciate that about someone when we're spending time with them, they may also start to naturally feel more remembrance of the divine or of the depth in their life.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's so important. And I think it's definitely something that we can all try to apply in our daily lives, right? Like in some capacity, we, work with others or interact with others, even, I guess, people in our family, on a regular basis. And yeah, thank you for kind of reminding us to put on that positive, appreciative lens, right? And search for those qualities in the people that we interact with. Sometimes it's so easy to forget to do that and maybe even start to do the opposite. But yeah, there's so many little gifts, I guess, around us throughout the day. So yeah, thank you for reminding us to search for those things, right? And take some time to appreciate them. Yeah, I think we could, have an entire class about your experience in chaplaincy. So maybe that's something that we'll have some questions about at another time. But thank you so much again for joining us, Dina Bandhu, and, introducing chapter 4 as we go into this next stage in the Gita. So we're really grateful, and we hope to have you again with us soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Very sweet to join with everyone. And just wanted to say thank you all so much, Hare Krishna. And yeah, nice to see Premarnava Prabhu, Radanti Maharaj in the comments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone also who joined us. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Hare Krishna. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you, Sena. Hare Krishna.